Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 43 of the Tristain on Sports Show. Toss it is, in fact, your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and let's get right into things immediately. Let's get to State of the State, and we have to talk Milwaukee Brewers. It's been a while since we talked to you guys. It's been a couple of weeks, had some technical snafus, but those are over. And unfortunately, so is baseball season, which means the Brewers season ended way before that. They did not make the World Series, losing in 7 games to the Dodgers. And then the Dodgers subsequently went and lost in the World Series, their second straight World Series loss to the Boston Red Sox. Congrats to the Red Sox for winning that. Thank you for making us all in Wisconsin feel just a wee bit better that those guys who did not represent themselves very well in the Dodgers went on to lose. But it was a hell of a season for the Brewers. It was one hell of a season for the Brewers, and people were thinking it's just a magical ride that doesn't come along every so often, and they'll never see that again. And I have to disagree. I think this was more than a magical season. I think this is what you can expect from the Brewers moving forward, especially within the next 2 to 3 seasons. I think they are very much so World Series contenders. Craig Counsell made people think about baseball in a much different way. He made them think about it on a deeper level, on a chess move type level. He made lots of moves. He had lots of different scenarios that he had to play through. And a lot of times this season, those scenarios fell into his favor. And then there were a few times where it did not fall into his favor. And unfortunately, it didn't fall to his favor in Game 7. You get out to a lead. You give up that lead. You have to bring in Josh Hader much earlier than you wanted to. You give him 3 solid innings to keep you guys in it. And the bullpen subsequently goes and gives it up by a 3-run home run by Yasiel Puig. I mean, those situations happen. It's just unfortunate that it happened in Game 7 when there was no tomorrow. There is no next series, and not least until next season. But this team is built to contend. Now they have some decisions to make. And some guys are already making decisions. I think today the Brewers picked up the option for Jeremy Jeffress. And I know people are kind of down on Jeffress, but they shouldn't be. Every pitcher has days where they just can't get an out. And they go through stretches where they just kind of struggle to get outs. And it's unfortunate that Jeremy Jeffress had that kind of run in the playoffs. You know, he had some good moments, but he also had some not so good moments. But you don't quit on a guy like that. That guy had been absolutely lights out all season. He was an all-star. You keep pitching like that. You keep the strength of your team intact as much as you possibly can. And we know the strength of this team was in that bullpen. So you keep that intact. Now, Wade Miley and Joakim Soria, they both decided to decline their options. And, they had some pretty fat contract options that would have to be picked up by the Brewers, and that will balloon your salary. Mike Moustakas is another guy who had a fat contract option, and he decided to decline and became a free agent. Maybe he feels to get more money elsewhere. Miley was very good. Soria was very good. Moustakas was pretty good. It's hard to really say if those will be huge losses or not, because you think about it, and you think about that bullpen, you think about that starting rotation. Joakim Soria came along and got to that bullpen late in the season. Wade Miley, he was hurt for a lot of the season, but when he came back, he was pretty lights out. I mean, he was pretty automatic. I mean, he was right up there with Shashin as being the 2 best starting out-getters, and I'm doing the air quotes again, starting out-getters the Brewers had. But you have guys coming back who you feel will be healthy next season. You have a guy in Zach Davies who you feel will be healthy all next season. He really didn't pitch a whole lot this year, was dealing with injury. You hope you get a full healthy year out of him, but even more so than him, you have a healthy, strengthened, has not pitched all year long Jimmy Nelson coming back to that rotation. And this was a guy that you looked at as a top of the rotation type of guy before he went down with that injury. And he was also pitching like that before he went down with that unfortunate shoulder injury a couple seasons ago. Well, he hasn't pitched all year. He's coming back. He's healthy. He's fully healthy from shoulder surgery. He's ready to go. Then you figure you're going to have a couple of guys from that bullpen going into that starting rotation. Corbin Burns is one of those guys. Woodruff, one of those guys. Can you pick up some complementary pieces to go into that bullpen to kind of give you the strength that you had? I think you can, but I think your starting rotation gets strengthened by the guys that are coming back and maybe the guys who make it to the rotation from that bullpen. Those guys have some A+ stuff. So this team is really built to last. You have Yelich under lock. You have Kane under lock. You got Braun under lock. I mean, you have a lot of your pieces under lock. You're built to contend for, like I said, for the foreseeable future. And David Stearns is always going to tinker. He's always going to look ahead to the future. He's always going to make moves that make sense for the now and for the future. So Craig Counsell, like I said, he's a forward-thinking manager. He's the right guy for the job. He's proven that. He's shown that. You're going to be in contention for the next, I mean, World Series contention for me. I would say the next maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons. This team is built to last. So I don't want people to take this for granted. Obviously, if you have a shot to go to the World Series, you want to take advantage of that because it's not guaranteed that you'll be in the same position next season. But understand that this team is meant to be in that position year in and year out, the way they're built from top to bottom. So enjoy the run. Congratulate the Brewers. But I think this is what you should be expecting from those guys for the next few seasons. They'll be in World Championship contention. I really feel that way. So congrats to those guys on one hell of a season. Pitchers and catchers report in February. We are not that far away from that. Baseball season completely over, but Brewers had one hell of a run. Looking forward to next season. Moving on State of the State here on Toss, we have to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. You guys know how excited I have been about this season. And like we said, it's been a couple weeks since we spoke it to you. Brewers season is underway. 7 games in, 7 wins. The Bucks are the only undefeated team remaining in the NBA. After defeating the Toronto Raptors on Monday at the Fiserv Forum, the 4-1 Forum. Still was a huge game for me. No Giannis because Giannis is dealing with concussion symptoms. You hope to have him back for tomorrow night's game against the Celtics, national television. Big game for those guys. Celtics are playing well. They're 5-2 now. No Kawhi for the Raptors, but I still said that this is going to send a message to the rest of the NBA because if the Bucks could win this game without Giannis, it's showing the rest of the league like, look, we're going to play, and we're going to play hard, and we could quite potentially dominate you with or without Giannis. And honestly, the early part of this season, these first 7 games, it really has been without either Giannis being as sharp as he has been, not playing as many minutes as we're accustomed to seeing him play, or at all. Giannis is averaging 25, 14, and 6. But he hasn't been as sharp as we know him to be, and that's the scary thing. Imagine when he gets back to being as sharp as we know him to be. But you have to be encouraged by the fact that they could go out there and win ball games without him. Chris Middleton has taken another step. I think Budenholzer's system has unlocked another dimension in him, made him a much more dangerous shooter than he already was. I think clearly nobody can argue now the point that I had been making the past 2 to 3 seasons that he is a legitimate number 2. You can win with him as your number 2. Guys averaging over 20. Shooting 55% from 3. That's insane. I've been beating that drum for years and people are just now grooving to the rhythm of it. Oh, now you want to come along and see what this man can do. Now you want to give him his props, what he can do. Better late than never, I guess, but you guys need to watch the game a little bit closer and not be so hasty. But 7-0, first time since 1971-72. You're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson territory. It's the last time they started 7-0. This is a good team. This is a good team. And this team is proving each and every single game. Budenholzer is proving each and every single game that the previous coaching regime was holding this franchise back, was holding these players back. You're seeing guys now doing things that you would never see them do under Jason Kidd. John Henson is hitting 39.5% from three. What? The man that was dubbed J-Hook, that was his only move in his arsenal. Now he's stepping out to three and shooting it with confidence and making it with confidence. This Bucks team is shooting almost like 43s per game. Bledsoe looks like a point guard. He's averaging 13 points and nearly 8 assists a game. A lot of these guys that people were writing off as saying they're trash, they can't play. You're seeing that with a different system, a different mindset, one that actually works in today's modern NBA, that these guys do have game. These guys can, in fact, play. And the fact they're doing it with a lesser Giannis. And I'm not trying to say that Giannis is not the MVP candidate. He's not the superstar that he's grown to be. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying at the offset of this season, at the beginning of this season, he has not been as sharp as we know him to be. He has not played as many minutes as we are accustomed to him seeing, and he's already missed a game. He missed half the game against Orlando when he originally incurred the concussion. Aaron Gordon elbowing him flat in the face. Missed a chunk of time the next quarter. He was pretty much sent back to the locker room. In the third quarter, he came back for the fourth. Played a little bit, but not much. Concussion symptoms came on a couple days after, and he had to sit down for the Toronto Raptor game. Again, you hope to have him back in tomorrow night's game against the Celtics. But you have not had Giannis as at the level that you're accustomed to having him to. And that's really crazy for saying that for a guy averaging 25, 14, and 6. It's really crazy to be saying that, but he really has not been as sharp as we're used to seeing him. And he's been playing far less minutes than we're accustomed to seeing him. So you're playing with less Giannis, but you're getting the same results. You're getting the same results as you would if he was on the court with him off of it. And that's the mark of a true team. That's the mark of a true team. It reminds you of last year's Celtics team. No Hayward, no Irving, but yet they came within one game of the NBA Finals. You have to be able to play with whoever is on the court. You have to go out there and be able to win. Now, in no way, shape, or fashion am I saying that they'll be able to survive a 30-game stretch without Giannis. They're going to need him. They're going to need him. But it's encouraging to see that they can win without him on the court and with less of him on the court. The more you can rest these guys, the better. Especially late season. If you qualify for the playoffs and you're getting close to playoff time and your guys don't have a whole bunch of run on their legs, that's going to do nothing but good things. It's going to do nothing but good things. So the Bucks 7-0. Best team, not just in the Eastern Conference, but you have to start talking about them as being one of the better teams in all of the NBA early on in the season. They're top 10 both offensively and defensively. It's not like they just do one thing very well. They do both sides of the ball very, very well. And they're winning. So you got to put them up there in that category, looking at them like, hey, maybe we have to talk about them as being one of the better teams in all the NBA. But right now, they're 7-0. Big game. We said it a couple times already, but a big game against the Boston Celtics, who are now starting to find their groove. National television. Tomorrow night. Big game. Big test. You hope Giannis is back for that, but it's going to be a big test no matter what. But man, 7-0 Milwaukee Bucks. That's just amazing to see. Never in our lifetime, at least I know mine, but never in my lifetime have we seen this kind of a run to start the season from the Milwaukee Bucks. It's fun to watch. They're a fun basketball team. Continuing on State of the State, we have to get to the Green Bay Packers. And oh my gosh, what can you say about the Packers? I mean, you had a mini saga brewing with two players, and the GM, Brian Gutekunst, just came out and squashed it. You barely scraped by the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football, but you win that game. You head into your bye week with a little bit of positive momentum. Then you have to come back and prepare for the best team in all of football, the Los Angeles Rams. There are many people not giving you one single solitary chance to win that ball game. And although I said they would lose, I said they would lose in a very, very close ball game. I think it would be a lot closer than most people think it would be. And that's exactly what happened. But the thing that makes you angry about Sunday's game against the Rams, Sunday's loss against the Rams, is the fact that the Packers were in position to have a shot at winning that ball game. You were up 10-0, then you go up, and then obviously Mike McCarthy makes that inexplicable call to run the football up the gut, right into the teeth of the defense with Sue and Donald right there. You get a safety. You have to kick it off. They score. So now it's 10-8 at the half. You go up 13-8 early in the second half, and then you got the back and forth scores. You come up with a critical stop of keeping those guys out of the end zone, hold them to a field goal, and now all of a sudden you have to go and try to win this game. You have to go and try to win this game. You need the football in order to do that. Ty Montgomery pulled out a couple series before that. He was angry about it. There were player accounts, anonymous player accounts, that he was throwing a temper tantrum about being pulled out of the game through his helmet. The team decided to put him back into the game for the kickoff after the Rams scored to make it a 29-27 ball game. They instructed him to take a knee in the end zone on the kickoff. And because he's throwing a temper tantrum, he's not happy about being pulled out, he makes the inexplicable decision to run the football out of the end zone. Has no sense of ball security whatsoever with carrying that football. Gets it knocked out. Fumble recovered by the Rams. It's game over. It's game over, and number 12 was standing on the sidelines like we're accustomed to seeing him do at the end of playoff games, because this very much felt like a playoff game. But at the end of playoff games, we're accustomed to seeing number 12 not even getting a chance with the football. And that's exactly what happened. You have a chance to go and win. Over 2 minutes remaining, you left for Aaron Rodgers. Over 2 minutes. And all you need is a field goal to win. Not a touchdown, a field goal. 2 minutes. Rodgers has shown he could do this. He's done it multiple times. He's broke many teams' hearts. You have to get the football to number 12. You have to allow him a chance with the football, and Ty Montgomery did not do that. He robbed him of the chance with the football. He robbed his team of a chance of a win. There was so much wrong with that run out of the end zone. It's not even funny. Because first off, if you kneel it, you're at the 25. When he ran the ball out, he only got to the 20 before he fumbled. So even if you did not fumble, you've robbed your team of 5 yards. Those 5 yards make a huge difference. But the very fact that you were so selfish, and I know Tramon Williams has come out and said he spoke with them and he feels that he didn't do that intentionally and whatever. I mean, Tramon Williams is just a good guy, a good teammate. He's going to back up his teammate family, and you know, that's all good and well. But the evidence points to him doing that on his own. The evidence points to him going rogue on that. Ty came out the next day. Lodge Kohler, kickoff radio, says he would never intentionally disobey directions from the head coach. But you did. They told you specifically to take a knee in the end zone. Take a knee. Let us get the ball to 25. We could go and win this game. And you didn't do it. Then he comes out and says, hey, I can't trust anybody in the locker room. And that pretty much sealed his fate. If none of this stuff before that sealed his fate, that statement did seal his fate. Because Goot wasn't putting up with that. Goot went and traded him to the Baltimore Ravens for a 7th round pick. Get out of here. You cost us a chance at a ball game. A critical ball game. A critical win in the division. You could be 4-2-1, but instead you're sitting here at 3-3-1 because of your selfish decision. Then you said you can't trust anybody in the locker room because they came out and spoke anonymously about what actually happened on the sideline and what you went and did. Now, one thing I don't agree with is the fact that he was being threatened and his family was being threatened. I don't care how passionate you are about sports. I don't care how passionate you are about the Packers or whatever team you support. To hurl threats and slurs and everything nasty at these players and their families is absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. There is no call for it. Never a call for that. You could be angry, and that's one thing. But don't threaten that man and don't threaten that man's family. It's a game at the end of the day. So I found that to be absolutely disgusting. And he had no reason to have to endure that. His family had no reason to have to endure that. But the truth of the matter is, what he did on that field was terrible. It was horrible. It was a selfish decision that cost him his time with this team. And it also cost this team a game, a critical win against the best team in all of football. Because remember, you're in a murderer's row of ball games. You got the Patriots next. And the Patriots aren't going to beat themselves. You have to play pretty much flawless football to go and beat the Patriots. You really do. And I know the last time they faced off the Patriots was at Lambeau, and it was an exciting win by the Packers. But that was 4 seasons ago. This is now. So you cost this team a football game. You said you couldn't trust your teammates. Goot jettisoned you out of here, and rightfully so. You can't allow to have that type of dichotomy within the locker room to where it starts to erode everything and everything falls apart. You're 7 games into this season. Can't have things falling apart. You got 9 more opportunities to go out there and win. So another player that had come out earlier in the season and said, I don't think I'm going to be back. I don't believe I'm going to be back. And has been wildly inconsistent. Clinton Dix. Traded to Washington for a 4th round pick. Get out of here. It's pretty much what Goot told him. Get out of here. Some people are on the Clinton Dix train. Some people are off the Clinton Dix train. I felt that maybe a new system, a new voice with Mike Pettin would reawaken that good Clinton Dix that we saw in that Pro Bowl year, in that All-Pro year. And he's just continued to be wildly inconsistent. I mean, you can see the potential in the guy, but he's just been wildly inconsistent, and it doesn't matter who the coach was. So he's another guy that had trade value. You have to go and get something for him. He's a free agent. So as opposed to letting him walk and getting nothing, you send him somewhere and get something. And there's people out there who are complaining that the Packers got a 4th round pick for him, or quote unquote, only a 4th round pick for him. Are you kidding me? Have y'all not watched the tape on this guy? Have y'all not seen how inconsistent he was? Ooh, he's leading the team this season in interceptions. Have you watched those interceptions? I mean, it's not like he went and made some great instinctual play. A lot of times he was just in the right place at the right time. Just kind of lucked into it. He's been wildly inconsistent. He's had 1 good year. But everything else he's done has been inconsistent and not great. Now, maybe a fresh change of scenery, another new voice can do something for him. Playing along a better safety than him is probably going to help him. And now he's in Washington with DJ Swearinger. Maybe he'll be a little bit better. Because we know the best times you got out of him was when he was next to Morgan Burnett. It's because Morgan Burnett covered up all his mistakes. But this is what the league value him as. You can't sit there and say, I can't believe they only got 1 4th round pick for Clinton Dix. No, that's his worth to the rest of the league. The rest of the league has the same tape the Packers do on him. They got the same damn tape. So that should not be a surprise. So I think a 4th-round pick, you did good in getting a 4th-round pick. You weren't going to get any more for Ha Clinton Dix. You weren't going to get any more for an inconsistent safety who doesn't want to be a leader of the defense. That's his worth. And actually, I'm quite surprised they got a 4th-round pick for him. I thought it would have been a lower round pick, but you got a 4th-rounder for him. So you jettisoned off some of the problems on this team. And one thing that's going really unnoticed is the fact of how many assets Goot has for next year's draft. He is trying to erase the mistakes of drafts past by Ted Thompson. And for all this draft and develop, I'm completely fine with. If those players are going to develop to being really, really good players, guys like a Micah Hyde, who you drafted and developed and who's developed into one of the better safeties in all of the NFL. I know he's hurt with Buffalo, but he's doing his thing with Buffalo. And 2, if you're going to retain those guys, which is something that Ted Thompson never did. You drafted guys like Morgan Burnett, who's a hell of a safety. But you let him walk at the end of the day. We already talked about Micah Hyde. Drafted him, developed him, he became a really good safety. But you let him walk. The draft and develop idea only works if you develop those guys to being really good players and you retain them. If you don't retain them, that hurts your team. If these players don't develop, that hurts your team. And that's been the case with Ted Thompson's draft and develop regime. He's had some players that he's retained, but far more that have never developed and far more that he's let walk. And it has hurt your team. It's absolutely hurt your team. So what Goot is doing is stacking those assets to be able to erase the draft's past. He had to really overturn a lot of these horrible picks and fill the voids and the holes that were left by these terrible picks made by Ted Thompson. People have to realize he was not the best drafter. He really wasn't. He was just not the best drafter because you look at where this team is. They're a middle of the road team. That's just where the Green Bay Packers are this season. That's where they've been kind of trending. It took a 6-game win streak for them to make the playoffs the season prior. And I'm not talking last season. Last season, you lost Aaron Rodgers. You had no chance. You saw what type of team it was. It was an under 500 team. But the year prior, it took a 6-game win streak for you to even make the playoffs. You're not going to have those kinds of runs all the time. It's the NFL. It's difficult to win games, but it's much more difficult to string those kinds of wins together. Ted Thompson has put this team in a hole with talent, whether it be letting them walk or whether it be drafting and them not develop. So Goot's trades and stockpiling of assets is so he can kind of cure those ails and bring some talent in here that is going to be controllable and that will be impact players in multiple spots and get this team back to that championship level that we're accustomed to seeing. But you're going to have many people out there who just don't understand that process. But you're going to have to get with it because it's what has to be done. If you're trying to compete while rebuilding, and make no mistake about it, I think this is a competitive rebuild. I think you clearly see that. It's a competitive rebuild. You have to get as many assets as you possibly can so you can go out there and get the best talent you possibly can that are going to fill the voids of this team and lift you back up. This is the new norm for now. This is the new norm for now. I have all the faith in the world in Goot. I know he's going to turn this thing around and over. He's going to do a much better job with contracts. He's going to do a much better job with talent evaluation. I think it's just going to be more sound drafting and it's going to be more impact players in spots that we have not had in a long time. So the Packers 3-1. They got New England Sunday Night Football. To say that's going to be difficult is an understatement, but it's going to be difficult. The NFC North Very competitive. You're not out of it by any means. Even if you lose to the Patriots on Sunday, you're not out of it by any means, but you're making that road very, very tough to hoe. Very, very tough. You got to go and get that one. So that's the state of the state. Brewers season is done. Baseball season is done. Brewers are built to last. They're built to be contenders for the foreseeable future. So no reason to hang your heads about that. The Bucks, 7-0, the best team in the Eastern Conference, quite possibly the best team in the NBA currently. Huge game against the Celtics on Thursday night. You hope to have Giannis back from those concussion symptoms. You hope his brain is right, just for his everyday life. But 7-0, man, what a start. First time since 71, 72, you've seen that out of the Bucks. Fun team to watch. And the Packers, 3-1. Trading the troublemakers in the locker room. Getting assets to build this team back up into a championship contender. And they've got a big game of their own as they continue this murderer's row of ball games against the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. It's going to be tough. Coming up on Toss, we have to run the Toss Sweep, and we got to talk more early season NBA basketball. Who are teams that are doing well and who ain't looking too good right now? I know it's early, but they need to get it going because they're going to lose ground real quick. We'll discuss that more in the Toss Sweep coming up next. TossNationMedia.com is your home for the Toss brand of sports. That's the Tristain on Sports Show Toss that you're listening to right now. It's the Toss blog, the blog that accompanies this show. It's also the quick Toss videos that I drop each and every single Friday during Packer season. All that and more only on TossNationMedia.com. Welcome back to Talks, everybody. This is T-Squared Tristan Thomas. Thank you for continuing on with us. And it's time for us to run the Toss Sweep. The NBA is in full swing, as we've mentioned. And there are some good surprises, like the Milwaukee Bucks being 7-0. And then there's some teams that are not looking too hot right now and have you scratching your head and asking what the hell is going on. So let's get into it. Some early season surprises. We already mentioned the Milwaukee Bucks being 7-0. We don't need to go on with that. Quite possibly the best team in all the NBA. The Pistons were doing very well. At one point, the Pistons were undefeated. You knew Dwayne Casey would make a difference for those guys. You talked about Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson. I didn't think it would pay immediate dividends, but they're looking like a pretty good team. He's kind of put Blake at that power forward point guard spot. Has him handling the ball a lot. And it's working for them. It's really working for them currently. So they're really an early season surprise. Especially when they beat the Sixers last week. Blake dropped 50 on them. I mean, the Sixers are struggling. They're not looking too hot. I thought that would be a team that would finish ahead of the Bucks in the second spot in the Eastern Conference. I had Boston 1. I had the Sixers 2. I had the Bucks 3. I had the Raptors 4. Or 4 or 5. I had them. Nick Nurse, he had to prove it to me. And that's another team that's doing well. Are the Raptors. Nick Nurse has come in with Kawhi, with Lowry, with Siakam, with Valanciunas, with Ibaka. He's got those guys playing some really good basketball. Now they fell to the Bucks on Monday, but that makes it that then they came back and bounced back with the win against the Sixers just last night. So I mean they're playing some really good basketball. And Kawhi is showing exactly why. People were sleeping on him. They were questioning whether or not he was a top 5 talent in this league, which is stupid. If you're questioning that, you really need to have your basketball card revoked. There is no question that man is a top 5 player in this league. Offensively and defensively, he gets it done. Continues to show that. But he's got those guys off to a really, really good start. I thought they may take a little bit of an adjustment period with Nick Nurse being in there, but he's come in and he's paid immediate dividends, at least this far, early on in the season. My team to watch this season, besides the Bucks, obviously I'm always going to watch the Bucks, but my team that I said I was going to keep an eye on, and Professor P of Home Court Sports, which you can catch us live on Facebook, Home Court Sports, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. He asked me what team will I be watching. I said the Nuggets. the Denver Nuggets. I will be watching them because I think they are going to make the playoffs because they've been so close the last few seasons. They have a really good starting five. They lost Will Barton, so that's definitely going to hurt them. But I mean, you talk about Murray, and you talk about Millsap, and you talk about Jokic. I mean, those guys can absolutely flat out play. Sneaky good starting five, especially when you get Barton back in there. But a sneaky good starting five. They've been playing some really good basketball. At one point, they were undefeated. At one point, they had gotten to 4-0, 5-0, and they're still playing very good basketball. Did not expect that. Well, I did, but just not to that level. I thought they would be really good, but just not to the point where they got off to an undefeated start. Who's terrible right now? Who's not playing the best basketball right now? Again, we know it's early. But if you're in a Western Conference, as these teams are, you can't afford to lose much ground. It's the Western Conference. I mean, you can get off to a bad start in the Eastern Conference and potentially make it in the playoffs, even if you get lukewarm. That's just been the history of the Eastern Conference. But the Western Conference has always been stacked. So who's not playing well right now? The Lakers. The LA Lakers. The LeBron James-led LA Lakers are not playing well right now. At all. Now, obviously, they're dealing with some suspensions of Rondo and Ingram because of that fight they had with the Rockets. Or Rondo spit in CP3's face. But even before that, they weren't playing well. They can't shoot. They do not have enough perimeter shooting. Now, we know LeBron James can hit a jump shot and he can hit a three, but he's nowhere near lethal from there. We know Kyle Kuzma can hit an outside shot. He can hit a three, but he's nowhere near lethal out there. We know Lonzo Ball's shooting has improved. It was improving even last season, but he's nowhere lethal from out there. Those guys' shooting is just, that's really the biggest question, because if they can't really hit an outside shot, you can easily collapse the defense on those guys and stop them. And to this point, they have been. They've been stopped. They haven't even been the best defensively either. I think that's just a situation where they're still trying to gel, but their lack of shooting is glaring, much the same way the Bucks' lack of shooting last season was glaring, and it's costing them games. They're putting up points, but that lack of outside shooting is really hurting them. That lack of defense is really hurting them. That lack of familiarity with each other is really hurting them early on in the season. Again, it's early, but it's also the Western Conference. You got to get it going. The Thunder is on this list, and Russ came back just a few games ago. I know they won last night. Paul George and Russ had big nights. That's what they're going to need out of those two. But they hadn't exactly been playing the best either. But I think that those two teams can have the potential of turning it around. A team that was in the Western Conference Finals last year is really struggling. 1-5. The Houston Rockets. Now, somebody asked me, do you think the Rockets can repeat what they did? And I told them no. And they looked at me crazy and asked me why. And I said, well, because their defense is going to be worse. They lost Bahamute and they lost Ariza. They lost their physical switch defenders, which is why they got out to a 3-2 lead on the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals to begin with. And now you're seeing that come to fruition. That's another team that's been dealing with suspension. With CP3 was out, due to a suspension, but he'd come back. But now James Harden is out due to injury. And I believe it's a hamstring injury for him. And they're struggling. They are scuffling. They can't play the same defense they did last season, and offensively it's just been herky-jerky. Hasn't been the same. I knew they would take a step back from the season because of the acquisitions they made and the players they lost, but I didn't think it would be toward the bottom of the Western Conference type of step back. I thought maybe a couple seeds back, maybe a 3 or 4, but I never, ever thought they would be 1-5 this early in the season. And it's the Western Conference. You got to get going. You have got to get going. So those are some surprises. Those are some good surprises, some bad surprises. Again, It's very early in the season. It's very, very possible that these teams' fortunes could turn around, good or bad. But if you're looking early on in the season and you're looking to see who's in first and who's in last, there's no doubt in my mind your eyebrows is rising because you are absolutely shocked at what you will see. But it's NBA. It's a long season. Hopefully some of these teams can turn it around for the better. Or it's going to be a long season for them. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This has been episode 43 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. Hey, y'all know my social media handles, but I'm going to give it to you again anyway. At the20double, at the number 2, number 0, and the word double on both Instagram and Twitter. Made it easy for y'all to find me, so go ahead and follow me there. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show is the Toss Facebook page. We discuss a lot of the things we don't get a chance to discuss on the show on that page. So again, go and give us a like and follow at Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And don't forget, you can catch myself and Professor P on the Home Court Sports Show Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook.com/Home Court Sports. We got Wednesday nights on lock. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you that I'm the one and only, and so are you. Embrace it. Until next week, so long from Toss.